Welcome into Warchant TV. We are recapping another busy and active recruiting weekend for Florida State. I'm Ben Spicer, joined by senior recruiting analyst for Warchant, Michael Langston. 7 prospects visited Florida State this weekend, 3 of those being receivers, one of them a 5-star, and Kalik Lockett. 2 other guys that I think Florida State has a good shot at.
Mhm.
You got the chance to talk to all 3 of them. What's kind of the sense and the vibe that you're getting from those 3 receivers that were on campus this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, first, just talk about Cleat Lockett, a five-star wide receiver out of Texas. I put in my, I guess, breakdown of kind of what I was hearing that FSU's really there's a surge where at the FSU intel suggests that they feel like they got a legit shot, and that continued into Sunday. So when I did this wrap, I wanted to have even more intel and kind of Khalik when he talked afterwards, it was the same. It was the same thing where you felt there was a lot of eyebrow raising just comments on FSU, and you can tell. Like I mean, said it several times. Like it's different here. There's a different feeling when he's on this FSU campus, and took one visit in the spring, and then now this official visit. So I think there's a legit shot. I think a lot of people have Texas like circled that it's like that's where he's for sure going. I think FSU feels like there's a very real chance, and I've talked to a few Texas contacts just to get their feel, and they feel kind of similar that FSU is a major threat. So they did a great job nailing everything from the family to the culture to certainly the fit from a football perspective that was really special. But I think the way he gets the feeling of how he's there is really I think the really resounding thing with Kalik, and I think they did a unbelievable job. And I think they're I couldn't say that I felt like they would be a threat even before the visit and all the stuff he said, but as the Friday and Saturday went on, I started to feel like, you know what, they're a real player here, and so I think they're a major player. Now, you still need to see the feelings of after you get past that 1 week time where the official visit. But I think the confidence has risen certainly with FSU with Cleat Lockett. Then you also have Joshua Moore, a 4-star wide receiver, in-state kid, a very coveted receiver on their board. I'd probably say there's probably like 3 or 4 guys that they certainly highly covet, and I think without question that Joshua Moore's in that conversation. I think Dalen McCutcheon, certainly Khalid Lockett is another one in there. So I think a guy like Moore, I think they really nailed it with the connection around the team. Moore loves kind of the development of what FSU does with receivers. You could tell a lot of that in his interview that we did, and you could kind of sense that in the write up that the product is very big to him. And good news for FSU is like they're battling Florida, and Florida's coming off a subpar season where FSU's coming off a ACC title and 13-0 of season. So I think he sees kind of what FSU's doing, but also what their offense in general is doing. So I still like FSU slightly a little bit ahead of Florida. He still has that Georgia visit coming up, certainly. So they'll still have to keep battling, but I think they did everything they wanted to accomplish this weekend. They wanted to make sure there was a high comfort factor with him around the players. They put him around a lot of the players. He spent time with Dugans and said, Dugans, that's my guy and all that stuff. But I think FSU also, there was a great deal of time where FSU let him be around the players consistently and got questions answered. And I think they really nailed what they were looking for on this visit with Joshua Moore, and certainly I think they have a very good shot to pull it off. I still think it's a close battle with them in Florida for me right now, but I still like FSU a little bit more. And then the last guy is kind of almost like a new one in Malik Clark. Got a chance to talk to some of his family after the visit, and they were telling me that he nixed a lot of other visits just to go on this visit. In fact, they had a family thing planned that they were going to go to, like almost like a family reunion or a family function of that they were doing. He nixed that too, just to make sure he made this visit. So he's very coveted. He really covets FSU highly. The question for me is, how much does FSU covet him? They showed this weekend, hey, we like you, we want you. We certainly made a major impression, but compared to those other two that I just covered, is he going to be on that level of how hard they push? So I think really for me is about what FSU does after this visit. What do they do from a interest standpoint or from a full throttle, full push all the way, in the next week or so. That's kind of what I'm going to be following, Ben. If I see that push, I think there's going to be a really legit shot that you see, FSU pull it off because this kid's changing a lot of stuff just to come see you. There's certainly a highly covetedness with him when it comes to the FSU program, and they certainly did everything right, pushed all the right buttons. So I'm just wanting to see kind of the follow up of how much they pushed there, but there's no question, based on finding that intel afterwards of how much he wanted to make this visit, and certainly the impressions they made. So I think they knocked it out with all of them. But those are kind of some factors I'm looking for in Malik, and I think I would I would say North Carolina is probably the team that I hear that they're probably battling the most in this recruitment. So again, I want to see what they do next week in the future of how hard they push, and if that push is there, I think he's the guy that FSU fans should get really familiar with. Of it could possibly be in this class if that push continues.
Two interesting defensive back prospects that I've kind of had my eyes on, and I'm interested to get your thoughts. Jordan Young coming down
Yeah,
from North Carolina, and in his interview, he kind of spoke that FSU was kind of surging up the ranks a little bit. And then you've also got another interesting one who it appeared that he had a lot of fun on his visit too, and he's an LSU commit, and that's
yeah.
Jabari Antoine. And it seems like Coach Surtain is doing some things with both of these guys, but I'm kind of interested about Antoine as well.
Yeah. Jabari, you talk to Jabari afterwards, and it's always cool when you talk to kids from the boot. Just the accent's really fun, But it was clear, like the smile and the twinkle in his eye, just talking about FSU and I think the certain development of defensive back was a real selling point for him because he said that's one of my biggest factors when I look at the schools. I mean, obviously LSU does a really good job with development, but he's going to go through the process and kind of see what school is the best fit when it comes to development. So that was a big selling point. I've heard FSU sold that really hard this weekend of this is what they do with the DBs, and they compared it to his film of comparing it to how he would fit there, and kind of showed him examples, whether it be whiteboard or film, and that really resonated with him. Throughout the weekend, said he's going to make I guess a final decision. Later this year, he definitely said he wanted to come back for a game. So that tells you he's invested in kind of what he saw this weekend. The fact that he wants to come back and be around the game to see what the defensive backs do in person. So that might be a guy that you don't hear anything as far as a final call or final thing in his recruitment until maybe during the season, being when they get a chance to see other schools. But there's no doubt that he's very invested in what Pat does with the defensive backs, and they had a really good plan from everything I was told. People not from the FSU side, but people that were close with Jabari, that of the detailed plan of how they plan on using it. It wasn't just, I don't even think LSU was mentioned at all. It was more so what FSU does and guys that are similar to his build and his skill set of what he does. And it really, like I said, resonated throughout the visit with him. Jordan Young, a guy that certainly both Adam Fuller and Pat Surtain have been on pretty hard at the safety position. Mentioned, as you alluded to, FSU being right there with Clemson. I still feel that's what this who the recruitment will come down to, is those two schools. I think FSU made a really big push. I didn't hear enough where I'm like, you know what, they pushed over the top where they were so much better than what he's done in Clemson. He even mentioned, hey, I've been to Clemson like 6 times. So, if I was making a pick, I'd still probably say Clemson slightly, but certainly we've seen these things where it goes either way, but there's no question the culture, the what they do at that safety position, what he's seen on the field from FSU is certainly captivating to him. So is the staff. Seeing the staff, being around the staff. Um, I'll say this, like, because you've heard a lot of this with me talking about players around the recruits, and their players at FSU are some of their best recruiters because they can tell them kind of what they're experiencing, good or bad, and be very genuine about it. Certainly, Jordan loves Mike Norvell. There's no question. Listen to him talk about the energy, and it's a different thing where it motivates you and makes you, even if you don't feel like doing something that day. He's a guy that's just going to push you to outside your limits. So I definitely think they made a surge. I definitely think they made a big impression. I just don't know yet. Am I feeling yet that it was enough or it's over? Clemson. So that's one that I think is a close battle, but FSU pretty much got kind of the message and the keys they wanted of being around the players. Great academic presentation that really stood out to him, Jordan, throughout the week, and then his parents, well, obviously seeing FSU, kind of falling in love with just the what their culture's like. I think all those things, I think they hit on really well. But it's like a week or two thing we're at to see, like, do we start hearing stuff where this visit was a little bit better than what he maybe indicated after the visit?
Next up, we have the prospect who traveled the furthest to get to Florida State this weekend. Zadrius Rainey-Sale came all the way from Washington, but it feels like Florida State's still a player in this. I know they're battling against Washington, but it feels like the Noles very much alive in his recruitment, right, Michael?
Yeah, I mean, Matt was saying to me, like, after we did the interview, Matt was like, yeah, I think they're gonna get that kid, and there was a lot of telling things that he said that certainly can make you you know feel that way. I think the big factor with this one was that mom was on the visit that came all the way over, and she felt very comfortable if he had to go there, and she had to drop him off, and her baby was there, that she would feel comfortable with it, and that's kind of I think what the biggest key for me was with his visit. I said that a lot in the preview. That hey, that's the thing that is going to either win or lose for them. Mentioned Washington, FSU, UCLA. As I pointed out in Saturday Night Nuggets, those were kind of the teams that I'd been hearing. Now you got a lot of West Coast teams, so there's obviously some connection that will help the West Coast teams. If he values them, the things that they have over, would being close to home. And but if FSU's so good with the relationships and what Randy does with development with linebackers, where I think where he feels like, you know what, I can deal with not being home, and my mom can deal with me not being home, and I think that's the key. If that can happen and all things are equal, then I think FSU can pull off the recruitment. But that's really the key. And I said it on Saturday night. Like, we're not going to know that until a week or two later. He still has one more official left. Um, I think it's real. I think FSU probably holds the edge slightly over those two West Coast teams. But he does officially visit Utah. It's coming up soon. So if they can overcome that juice of that weekend, and can sustain that momentum, then I think maybe they could pull it off. But that's really, it's going to be a recruitment like in the next week or two that we will see, like, where this thing for sure that FSU can pull it off, and then you might see some RPM picks on whether it's good or bad, for FSU or somebody else. And so I think that's really key. And certainly he wants to see the season, but I think a decision could come, after that UW visit. So it's really the sustainability of this visit, and if mom is comfortable with him being away from home, she likes FSU the most, and she's comfortable with it, then I think there would be a lot of excitement around Tallahassee that of their chances of pulling it off. So I think that's really the key that I'm going to watch the next week or two.
There would certainly be a lot of excitement if Florida State was able to land this next prospect.
Yeah.
He would be a massive flip. He's a USC pledge at the moment, 5-star defensive lineman Justice Terry. What was kind of the intel with him?
Yeah, the intel really picked up on Saturday. That's when I started hearing a lot more about Justice. I mean, a lot of people don't remember, like early in his process, he even named FSU as his leader. He visited several times in the spring, was there often. I think he's a guy that both JP and Odell like a lot, can play kind of multiple sets. So whether you want him as edge or a defensive tackle, I think he's a guy that certainly they covet, and certainly they laid out the red carpet and nailed it as far as what did they wanted to get him to feel. And I think as the weekend went on, Saturdays when I started hearing like, yeah, we feel like we're a real threat. We feel like we're right there with Georgia, and I think Georgia's probably the best chance to flip him. But I think FSU's now right there. I think FSU has and we hear that a lot. If you compare FSU to the culture of other schools, of just the way recruits talk about them, it's a little bit different of way kids view them, and just the different feelings that kids have. It's kind of what the Cleat Lockett thing, where he's been to Texas a bunch of times, but he says, "Hey, this place is different when I'm here." So I think they did a lot of that as well with Justice, and I think they're certainly in the picture now. If you're gun to my head, I'd probably say flip to Georgia before FSU, but I think FSU's right there now. I think I think you're going to see Justice come on campus a few more times, because I think he wants to experience a game day, wants to experience kind of how he feels of what the defensive line's doing, and I think if they can continue it and grab that momentum, I think they could be a bigger threat than where I think it's at right now, where I think they're right there with Georgia. But I think if they can show the product as the season goes on and keep the momentum going, he's a guy that definitely we can keep an eye on. But I think the main thing they needed to do in this weekend with Justice was make a surge to get up there with Georgia, to at least be a threat. And I think they've done some of that, even as it's close to Georgia, or even or whatever. I think that's what they wanted to accomplish, more so than just, hey, we need to flip them. Or it was more so get him in there, get in a unique experience about what FSU does with their defensive linemen, and just get him around the players that they can experience kind of what if that place feels like home. So I think they accomplished a lot of those things, but now it's about following up on that momentum through the season, and really making a splash. Not going to be easy, guys, because you're dealing with Georgia, in-state kid. They're very good. They're one of the best teams almost every year, so it will be a challenge. But I think from a culture standpoint, and football and production and development, they accomplished what they wanted to show, to Justice and his family this weekend.
Well, Michael and Matt will definitely bring you all the latest
Yep.
developments. Still one more big recruiting weekend, the biggest one of the month of June coming up for Florida State. I think it was over 20 prospects coming up.
Yeah.
So make sure you stay tuned to the Premium Recruiting Board. Like and subscribe to Warchant TV. You won't want to miss out. Me and Michael will be getting together later in the week as things sort of progress and we see, who's going to be on campus. So stay tuned for that, and certainly look out on the Premium Recruiting Board for notes and nuggets about what's to come. I feel like we've got some commits brewing, Michael, so it's an exciting time, and we're looking forward to bringing you all the latest FSU recruiting news right here on Warchant TV. Until next time, we'll see you later. For Michael, I'm Ben. Thanks for watching.